back to Sports Today. So, we are here with you to bring you a nice update in the morning. And of course, we'll be covering news items that you may or may not have missed out on whilst you were catching up on some all important sleep. And let's be fair, nowadays, a lot of people have been preferring to choose the comfort of their beds, given just how cold it is, especially if you're living in the Delhi NCR region like I am. But the world of sport never really sleeps, and that's why we are here with you guys to bring you some interesting updates and some, anecdotes, news bits that you might have missed out on whilst you were getting some all-important rest. So, without further ado, let's just get straight to it. The former India international Wasim Jaffer has come out and said that India are not really missing Ravindra Jadeja at this point in time. Remember, Jadeja has been out with an injury and he's been out for about close to 5 to 6 months now. And Jaffer has said that, normally in normal circumstances, you'd be missing Jadeja. But right now, with the kind of form that Akshar Patel is in, you're not missing him at all. In fact, I'll just read out the full quote for you guys. It goes something like this. He says that India are not missing Jadeja, who has been a phenomenal player in all three formats. But since India found Akshar Patel, we're not talking too much about Jadeja since he's been away. Goes on to show you how good Akshar has come about as a cricketer. Fantastic. Now, of course, there are many people who would say that, Jadeja is one of those people who would be pretty much irreplaceable in the playing 11. And whilst there is an argument to be made that Akshar is a better bowler, Jadeja was generally seen as the better batsman of the two, and that is why he would be included. However, now though, in terms of bowling, pretty much I would say Akshar is slightly ahead. And in terms of batting, my God, Akshar has been really turning it on in recent times. So obviously, it would be a pretty tough call or pretty harsh call if Akshar actually ended up sitting out as soon as Jadeja was fit. In fact, as we were discussing on our live shows, which you guys would have seen, we said that, as things stand, Akshar may not actually, Jadeja rather, may not be a guaranteed starter anymore. He might just have to wait and watch a little bit. And that's also understandable because he's been coming back from an injury, but it's also because Akshar has been doing really well. Sticking to cricket news and sticking to news related to the India-Sri Lanka series, you know that today is the deciding match between these two teams. India won the first T20I, but Sri Lanka bounced back nicely at the MCA Stadium in Pune, setting up a nice finale at Rajkot. Now, ahead of the match, India coach Rahul Dravid has actually praised the Sri Lankan side, saying that, look, they've got a pretty experienced T20 side in this series. From the World Cup on, they haven't made too many changes. They've got some class players, very good spinners, power hitters in the back end. I think Dasun Shanaka is playing really well, is what Dravid says. And they might have had some tough periods, but they're certainly not a side you would take lightly at any stage. In fact, Sri Lanka, I would say not just from the World Cup, I would argue since the Asia Cup, have been a pretty consistent side in terms of, the kind of playing 11s that they've picked, the kind of squads that they've picked. They're very, very settled, and that's what actually makes them so dangerous. This India team, very much a new look team, missing three veteran players. You're looking to build something. So that means that going forward, there will be some stumbles, some hiccups, the kind type of which you saw at Pune. But it's also worth noting that, well, quite frankly, Sri Lanka are just a side that are very good in the T20 format, and they are the Asia Cup champions for a reason. You cannot absolutely deny that. Also sticking to cricket news, but moving tack this time around, we're focused on the Pakistan cricket team now. Yesterday, Sarfaraz Ahmed actually ended up putting together a very good 100 on the final day of the second test and second and final test between New Zealand and Pakistan, and that while it's not enough to actually get Pakistan over the line, did actually help them secure a draw at a time when a defeat seemed the more likelier option for them, considering just how good New Zealand had been through the first session of the day. Now, the performances that Sarfaraz put in has led to a lot of calls for people, saying that maybe he needs to be given another look in other formats as well, particularly maybe ODIs and T20Is. Well, as it turns out, that doesn't seem to be happening because Shahid Afridi, who had been recently put in, he's the interim chief selector for the PCB. He's come out in a press conference and said that, look, Sarfaraz performed really, really well in the series, in the test series. We're happy with how he performed. It's always good for us. But as things stand, well, in the white ball format, Mohammad Rizwan is going to be our number one wicketkeeper. And truth be told, it's easy to see why that's the case. Yes, Rizwan didn't have a great 2022, but don't forget it was in 2021 itself when he was actually establishing himself as one of the finer openers in the game. Yes, strike rate was always going to be an issue, but the consistency at which he scored runs and the volume of runs he got meant that in 2021 he was the highest run getter in T20 cricket, and so it would make no sense to actually just displace him from the squad just like that, because it would be really unfair on him. So what Afridi said actually makes a lot of sense, and it means that you're not going to actually be seeing Sarfaraz Ahmed make a comeback in ODIs or T20Is, at least in the short term. Maybe in the long term, you don't know what things can happen. But in the short term, that's not necessarily going to be the case. Moving tack now, let's talk about some football news which has been doing the rounds. And this one is a bit Manchester United heavy. So Manchester United ended up winning their FA Cup encounter against Everton 3-1. Now, this weekend, remember, there's no Premier League football, but there will be FA Cup action taking place. So you can keep an eye out for that. We'll also be bringing you some updates and, reactions, analysis from the oldest cup tournament in the world. Manchester United beat Everton 3-1. Marcus Rashford on the score sheet yet again. That man has been in flying form post the World Cup. And even you could say before the World Cup, he was showing good glimpses of form. Post World Cup, though, he's been on another planet. Good for him. And speaking of Manchester United, after they terminated Cristiano Ronaldo's contract, there was still the need for another central striker or, some sort of a player in that central role. And their target for that is actually pretty interesting and ties into Cristiano Ronaldo in some ways, because there's a news rumor doing the rounds that they are targeting Vincent Aboubakar. Now, why does that tie into Ronaldo? It's because Aboubakar is currently playing for the Saudi Arabian side, Al Nassr. Yes, the same Al Nassr which Ronaldo recently joined. You heard that right. So, it could very well be that United are actually playing switcheroo and sending one forward to Al Nassr and bringing another one in. But it would be most likely a short-term deal. It's a loan deal that they're targeting and not a permanent thing, because I think they're going to look to do their striker replacement in the summer, when it's obviously a lot easier to get business deals of this sort done. So that's the one news there when it comes to football. There's also other news when you're looking at football. So David Beckham's second son, his second eldest son, Romeo Beckham, has in fact joined Brentford. And that's a pretty interesting thing, because it means we get to see the Beckham name back in the Premier League for the first time in quite a long time. Now, of course, we know for a fact that both Romeo and his elder son as well, his name is Brooklyn, yes, both of them had in fact also, followed in their father's footsteps, become footballers. Let's see how well it is that Romeo does in this spell at Brentford. And Brentford, to be fair, pretty good club to be joining in the Premier League, have a record of developing young, exciting players. Let's see how it goes to Junior Beckham. Fingers crossed, if you're a fan of Beckham, or if you're someone who was brought into the sport by Beckham's genius, you'll be wanting his kids to succeed too. We're ending with some tennis news, and you know for a fact that the Maharashtra Open or the Tata Open has been taking place, and there hasn't been too much of a challenge from the Indian side of things, except in the men's doubles. So the men's doubles duo of N. Sriram Balaji and Jeevan Nedunchezian have actually made it to the finals of the men's doubles event. They will be playing the finals. They beat Julian Cash and Henry Patton 6-4, 6-5 in the semis. And, they are the only Indians who actually stand a chance of being able to lift a trophy in the Indian ATP 250 event. So the fingers crossed that they can get the job done. It will be a great thing for Indian tennis. And speaking of Indian tennis, there's also news been out there that Sania Mirza, an Indian tennis legend if there ever was one, has confirmed that she will be retiring after the WTA 1000 event that is set to take place at Dubai later this year. She will be playing the Australian Open, and that will most likely be her final appearance in a major. Now, you'd remember that she had actually announced these plans to retire in 2002, but unfortunately, she got injured towards the second half of the season, so she said, I didn't want to be out after, an injury. I wanted to be able to retire once I played on court. And so due to that, she will actually be in action in the early parts of 2023 as well. And with that, I bring to an end this edition of the Morning Update. Thank you guys so very much for joining us. Again, if you enjoy what it is that we do over here at Sports Today, please don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and tap the bell icon so you know when it is we're going live or uploading a new video for you guys. Then you can also go ahead and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And last but not least, don't forget to download the AajTak app. Thank you all once again for joining us. As always, I've been Jadeja. I hope to see you with us through the day. But for now, goodbye.